We are very excited about today's show. And before we begin, we got Jessie Ledoux with our product feature of the week. Jessie, tell us what you got for us.
Hey, Stephen. So we have a brand new item in our shop, and I'm really excited about it. So, of course, we say the word nude shoes all the time, which is a really ignorant thing to say because not everyone is the same shade of nude. So bad on us, but we're here making it right. So we've partnered with a new shoe manufacturer to get some new variety of shades. So we have your traditional, like a lighter Caucasian nude, and then we have a really beautiful color. It's called cinnamon, and it works for a lot of different darker skin tones because you don't always want to wear a tan shoe if you have a darker complexion because then it works against you. It disrupts the line of sight in your leg, cuts you off a little bit. So we have expanded our product offering to have some different color options for people that are not tan nude.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the nude, tell us a little bit about the heel, or like the shoe overall, like what phases of competition is it good for, maybe what age categories, things like that.
Sure. So the shoe specifically I want to highlight this week, it's called the Classic Ankle Strap Heel. And that's exactly what it is. And it's so on trend right now to have one strap over your toe and one strap around the ankle. Like it's everywhere. And it's a wear everywhere shoe. It's perfect. So it's 4.5-inch heel. So it's nice and tall, but nothing crazy. And there is about 1.5 to 1 inch platform in the front. So you do get that barrier from your foot to the floor, adds a little more cushion, and it decreases the slope of the heel. So again, it's 2 straps, so you're not going to be worrying about your pinky toe hanging off the side. It's going to feel really secure, steady, and it comes in those 3 great colors.
Okay, phases of competition that it'd be good for, like evening gowns, probably one.
Yeah, so if you have a gown without a slit, it's a great shoe option because you might want something a little more razzle-dazzle to go with your outfit for a fun fashion or evening gown. But it works great for even interview, every single appearance, because it's such a neutral, it can go with everything, orientation, and anything else you do. So it's just like the perfect shoe to have in your closet. It's not super strappy, doesn't take a lot of volume on top of your foot, so it doesn't feel like you're closed in. It's just a really versatile shoe. I'm really a fan.
Cool. All right. What's the cost of it? And do you have any deals for us?
The cost is, it's $99.99, so $99.99. And I do have a deal for you. And for a shoe you're going to wear this much, it's totally worth it. And the deal is 15% off. So the coupon code is PP15.
Okay, and we'll leave that in the show notes too, as well as the direct link. And if anything, you can still find it by going to shop.pageantplanet.com. Thanks, Jessie.
Welcome to Pageant Planet's podcast, where we share stories and strategies to help expand and connect the global pageant community. Visit pageantplanet.com to find pageants, hire coaches, shop for dresses, and more. Now, here's your host, Stephen Roddy.
Welcome everyone to another episode. Today, Jessie and myself, we are going to be discussing how to follow your instincts like Sherri Hill. This is her story. So Jessie, set the stage for us.
Stephen, before I set the stage, we say a lot of really nice things on these bio podcasts. And I want our listeners to know none of these are sponsored. People don't come to us and ask to be featured. We are doing our best to find characters in the pageant industry that we find compelling and feature them. And like Sherri Hill was an obvious choice, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's like, has pretty much, I don't want to say revolutionized, but I mean, she is the leading figure when you talk in evening gown and just fashion in the pageant industry. It's like, oh my gosh, I am wearing Sherri Hill.
Right. So while pageants all have different phases of competition, one of the most consistent and well-loved categories is evening gown, or some call it formal wear. And it's meant to highlight a contestant's poise and elegance, and choosing the right gown is crucial to nailing this part of the competition. And contestants can spend hundreds or thousands on the right dress that they hope wins them the title. And it has to wow on stage. It has to be from a designer who understands performance quality of a couture or a custom gown. And you just, like we said, you can't talk about pageant evening gowns without talking about Sherri Hill, one of the most notable designers in the game, and not just in the pageant world, but prom industry and off the rack as well.
Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar with her, Sherri Hill is an American fashion designer and businesswoman whose specialty is formal evening wear, and she's actually ranked first in Pageant Planet's like Best of Pageantry Awards for the divisions, like top 10 pageant designers of 2018. I mean, and that was like pretty much hands down unanimous. I mean, I don't even, there was like, second place was like a mile back there or something. But Sherri, she once said that it is a real art form to marry an individual contestant's personality and sense of style into one defining dress.
Right. And one in particular that I can think of was Olivia Jordan's hot pink ball gown that she wore for Miss USA. Do you remember it, Stephen?
Yeah.
It was a big corseted top and then what looked like the breast cancer ribbons. That was part of like her style. So Sherri does that so well. And I want to kind of connect with her early life because I think it's integral to her story. But she was born Sherri Branham, I think that's how you pronounce the name, in Minco, Oklahoma, and was one of 5. And her parents, James and Roberta, owned a local grocery store or a general store in the area. And they sold everything from, like, I want to go to the store. They sold everything from like fabric, clothing, shampoo, candy, school supplies, like you name it, you could get it at the store apparently. And at the age of 8, she was, I love how this is written, given the opportunity to work part-time at the family store. So age 8, what an opportunity. Wow, really amazing. But anyway, so she was working alongside her older sisters, and the family business, they sold like colorful fabrics, sparked her interest, and she enjoyed selecting the merchandise for the stores and was drawn to the creative aspect of designing it all together.
Yeah, and I heard her first ever design was of an apron. It was like apron elementary school project. And in an interview with Upscale Living magazine, she said like about the project, she was like, I was so disgusted because I just wanted to make something like glamorous. I thought, who wears an apron?
Well, she was eventually, like after the apron, maybe she proved herself, but she was eventually allowed to dress, quote unquote, the 4 mannequins in the store's windows by just draping yards of fabric around them. So kind of like getting her feel into something more glamorous, perhaps. And after she graduated from high school, she went to study fashion design at the University of Oklahoma. And during that time, her family opened stores in Norman, Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. And they focused specifically on women's clothing and evening wear. And that really prompted her to start designing her own line of evening gowns.
Wow. And this is what she had to say about what fashion meant to her. She said, fashion is when the utilitarian aspect of clothing changes to expression. And essentially, in that statement, what she's saying is that fashion takes your inner joy and personality and projects it through a garment.
Wow, Stephen, I'm so impressed that you explained that.
Thank
I feel
you.
like it's almost like you've been in the pageant industry for 10 years or something.
Oh, wait.
Oh, you have. You've been spending time with me.
Yes.
I can tell.
Every week we talk and dive into the depths of pageantry and fashion and all the gloriousness.
But it's true. And like she graduated from the University of Oklahoma. She worked for various manufacturers in the evening wear business. And for 12 years, she worked, it's longer than you've been
with Pageant
working on
Planet.
Pageant Planet.
Absolutely.
So for 12 years, she worked as the chief designer for Giovanni Fashions, a name that probably all of our listeners know as well. And she helped launch that brand. And during that time, she started gaining recognition in the pageant world. So like various Miss America, Miss USA, Miss Universe contestants won in the gowns that she was designing.
Wow. And some early winners to wear her designs include like Jennifer Berry, Miss America 2006, and she wore a white gown with a V-neck and a semi-sheer bodice encrusted in crystals, and Miss America 2007, Lauren Nelson, who also won in a Sherri Hill, like back-to-back winners there. And this gown was black liquid beading against a nude background.
Yep. And I remember, Stephen, because this was like the peak of my nerddom in pageantry, or my creeping. But like, I remember that at the time it was like dual branded. It would be Sherri Hill for Giovanni. And I think Sherri would have been a smash hit no matter what. But I do think having such close ties in Oklahoma during that stretch where they were so successful, like having back-to-back Miss Americas wearing her designs, did help propel her visibility and success. Maybe a little more quickly than she would have if she would have just split from Giovanni and started from scratch. But both of these gowns, Jennifer's and Lauren's, were part of the Giovanni by Sherri Hill collection. And in 2008, Sherri left Giovanni to begin her own evening gown line, finally, along with her family, under the name Sherri Hill Incorporated.
And according to the company's website, the Sherri Hill brand is Sherri Hill's exclusive dress collections epitomize the fashionable lifestyle of today's trend-setting women. Each dress is designed to enhance and fit the female form with fashion-forward style and wearability.
And the mission of the brand is very similar. Sherri's devotion to design is evident in her selection of beautiful fabrics and trimmings, combined with an innovative combination of cuts to accentuate the best features of each and every woman.
Yeah, I feel like Sherri, she's known for meticulous detail, like attention and detail with each design, with a selection of beautiful fabrics, trimmings combined with innovative combinations of cuts that accentuate the best features of every woman. And what is that fabric? It's called it's kind of really wet, and is it liquid beading?
Yes. We were just talking about that. Was Lauren's dress.
Yeah.
And it's like probably one of the most luxe details of pageant gowns is that it looks incredible on stage. And it's a hallmark of Sherri's. Like a lot of her gowns feature liquid beading, and it can't be done cheaply. So you know that you're getting the highest level quality if you're going with Sherri. You really are.
Yeah. And so 6 years ago, Hill was asked what her fashion goals were with her line, and she responded, I want to create with my family a fashion company known for high quality products that are enjoyed and treasured. Of course, we would love to grow the company to a worldwide enterprise and have taken the first steps toward this goal.
And like, wow, fast forward, that was 6 years ago, and look at what they've accomplished in just 6 years. It's just incredible to me how much they've grown.
Yeah, I mean, her marketing is, and her imagery, which we'll get into a little later, is just like second to none.
It is. And she's really like turned her fashion shows into a social media dream. I feel like twice a year, pageant industry blows up, people trying to get in, people getting in, like it's insane.
Yeah, and like in 2011, Sherri Hill, she debuted at New York Fashion Week in the Trump Tower. And since then, she's shown collections at every fall and spring New York Fashion Week. And the event just gets more and more star-studded every year.
Steven, do you remember, this was actually Kendall Jenner's first runway show, and it like gave her big like modeling break. She walked for the first time, like she and Kylie together, and Hailey Baldwin in Sherri Hill's gowns, like huge names. And you might not remember this either, but Sherri also like was on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They showed her like working with Kendall Jenner to try to like get her up to speed so she could walk in Fashion Week. Like that's how like much Sherri has infiltrated pop culture.
Yeah, and then she followed up with that with a totally different demographic, the Duck Dynasty family, and the then 16-year-old Sadie Robertson, who is a role model for many young like women and families based on her faith and modest like lifestyle choices. She was also on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, that's right.
So she was invited to have her own collection within the Sherri Hill brand, which is huge. And a fun story about Sadie as kind of a side tangent is I don't even know if you know this, but a girl that I am like really dear friends with, and I went to school with her and her husband. She manages like Sadie. So like when we go down to Nashville, they shared the same office space and all that. And Renata is like, Renata's the name of my wife, for those of you who don't know, but she is like obsessed with Sadie and thinks that she's just the cutest thing ever. So we're sitting there in a breakfast place having breakfast with my friend. And I was like, oh, Renata, look, puppies. And Renata's like in love with puppies. And she was just like, she wouldn't look at the puppy. I'm like the puppy. She was like, shh, not now. And I guess Sadie Robertson had walked in like from behind me, and then she came up because naturally she knows Kendra, my friend, who manages her. And it was just like, hi. And Renata was like being so good, trying not to freak out, but like she was just totally sweetheart in person and just like completely just down to earth, which is like what makes her so appealing. So
yeah, I think she has a crazy popular podcast. I don't know if she still does, but there was a time where I was interviewing a lot of clients and they were talking about how much they loved Sadie specifically and her book and her podcast. So I don't know if she still has it, but she's very well loved, and it's great to hear that her brand is authentic.
Yeah, well, Kendra helped organize. She's doing a podcast tour and doing live things. And I think her first few, because she was Kendra was here at my house, and Katie like launched her podcast and then got like 500,000 downloads within the first, because she was watching the stats in real time and I was here. She was like, we just hit 500,000. I was like, that's amazing.
My gosh.
It was just going awesome. But anyways, congratulations to Sadie and all that. But I wanted to share that fun story.
I love that.
So now, like, okay, to jump back to New York Fashion Week and all that, and Sherri Hill, but now the event has become a cornerstone for some of the biggest names in pageants and just the beauty industry as a whole. In many ways, it feels like kind of a spin-off, if you will, or a variation of Victoria's Secret's fashion show. Like sparkly robe, glamorous hair, makeup, behind-the-scenes camera action, and deviating from the basic runway walk and Instagram like gold mine.
Yeah, for sure. That's so true. It's Victoria's Secret, but with clothes.
Yeah, completely. And like everything is done so classy, and it really, like, when a pageant girl makes it to a Sherri Hill model, as a Sherri Hill model, it's like she has made it to Victoria's Secret. I mean, the two are synonymous.
Well, I've heard a lot of clients say, like, okay, why do you want, like, we have a heart to heart about why they really want to win. Because it's not always like for the crown or to be a role model. And that's okay. Like, not everyone has the same goals. Say, well, I want to get exposure so I can build a modeling career. Great. And I say, okay, who do you want to model for? And they're like, Sherri Hill. And which cracks me up sometimes, because usually, like, you ask somebody in outside of the pageant world and they say Versace or Chanel or any of those like larger fashion houses. But I mean, think about that. That's your pinnacle. Like, girls are dying to model for Sherri Hill.
Yeah, she has her pick of the litter for sure, and she treats them really well too. She treats
oh my gosh,
really well.
They're royalty for sure.
Yeah, completely.
But so when Sherri was asked, like, what goes into preparing for a fashion show or a shoot, she said that we choose the garments to be shown, find accessories, choose the location, models to suit the mood of the garments, and our photographer Fidel Barisha is very involved in the process. And I actually didn't know she worked so closely with Fidel. Did you know that, Stephen?
So I did. I went so Fidel got a new studio in New York, and he was like, hey, you want to come up and see it? Because at the time I was living in Philly. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I just jumped on a train, or I was there and I shot him a text. And he was like, oh, I'm in the studio. Come down. I said, I got a new studio. So anyways, I went there and spent like the afternoon with him. And what I discovered was that Fidel, when Sherri left Giovanni, he and her worked out a deal where he would only do her photography.
Oh my gosh.
Like, so Fidel, many people know him in the pageant industry, but they didn't know just like, I mean, he shot like Halle Berry, and then they used his photos to promote her when she was like Catwoman. He shot Snoop Dogg, like, presidents and the Kardashians, and he's the one that actually connected Sherri with is it Kendall Jenner, the one that started modeling? Yep. So he was like, out of all the Kardashians, Kendall, she's the one that can make it in the modeling. So he was shooting, I think, Kim, and so he was telling me the story. He was shooting Kim or one of the other Kardashians, and he was like, oh, like, Kendall, she has it. So I'm going to connect her with Sherri, and you should model for Sherri. And then, so that's how those two got connected. And then, of course, with the Kardashians, like, her brand, that's what really put Sherri Hill's brand on the map when she linked up with that celebrity superpower. Yeah. And then from there, she just kept leveraging it. But I know that, and by working with some of the other prom and pageant manufacturers, they all look with envy at like Sherri's photography and like her imagery. And she had the foresight to really say, like, okay, I got to have the best pictures, and here's a celebrity photographer. And so like the deal that they worked out, I won't go into specifics, but it was just a kind of a locked in exclusive deal. So nobody else can use him. At least that's how it was at the time. But yeah, it was a really, really cool story, and his studio is beautiful, and like, he's just a cool guy. So I like him a lot.
Look at you knowing things. That is such a cool story.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and now that you say that, like, if I think, because I look at pageant gowns all day, every day. I mean, I love that. But you're absolutely right. Like, for me in in the apparel industry, like we take something called brand standards. That's what we use for our website when we're trying to sell a garment. And when I think about a lot of other designers, they also are shooting brand standards, an image from the front, an image from the back. Very simple. And you look at Sherri's and they're totally curated.
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, and he's
but
like,
now I know.
Yeah, and he's like the mastermind behind that. Like she like made famous those editorial shoots, and you see all these other prom fashion designers started to kind of follow her lead, which is following the lead of Fadil. And she had the foresight to hire him and lock him in. So again, like great businesswoman and just a lot of like respect for the empire that she's created.
Dang.
So yeah. But okay, so speaking to her process of choosing models for her show, Hill said, and this is where I know every listener is going to perk up, like, okay, what are you looking for, Sherri? And she says, I choose models who are able to show joy. Like, never choose models who look hungry or miserable. Like clothes, she says, my clothes are for special occasions where women are usually celebrating. And I love that. And because of the savvy strategy, Sherri Hill enjoys a big social media following and has been one of the most socially engaging fashion houses during New York Fashion Week.
So what does that mean? So this was according to Listen First, which is a social analytics firm that kind of measures the engagements, the posts, all the comments, et cetera, for all the brands that present at Fashion Week. And Sherri Hill finished in second place in September behind Ralph Lauren with 1.7 million. Yes. And then a year ago, she also took second place with nearly 4 million social engagements. And she came in second behind Victoria Beckham. And like Victoria Beckham, like lest we not forget, is a Spice Girl who was married to like a perceived sexiest man in the world. So for a small town girl in Oklahoma that's kind of made this story from nothing is huge.
Yeah. So, and I feel like girls and contestants or they're just like, or even just curious fans are like, okay, how do I start to get into modeling for someone like Sherri? And I feel like this is the coaching moment.
I definitely do. So for those listening and they're dying to get into the modeling industry, and especially for Sherri Hill or any designer really, because once you get started, it's a lot easier to keep going. The start is always the hardest. For those who want to model for Sherri or any other designer, your best bet is to meet them in person. So you can talk to your local Sherri Hill retailer about the ability to be referred to shop in the showroom. So she has a showroom in Austin and New York. And they're usually okay with this because if you go to the showroom and you buy something, they still get that purchase credit. So that's all taken care of. Or you can go do your research on the designer's upcoming trunk shows and kind of see what cities they'll be in. And many times those designers will actually attend. You can collaborate with them. You can meet them. And I would contact the shop prior to attending and make an appointment. That way you can guarantee you'll get some FaceTime.
Yeah. And like, can we talk about a little bit about Atlanta Market and how we get that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I guess I'll expand on that. So we get asked by designers a lot for models for Atlanta Market. And for those of you that maybe live outside the United States, and even a lot of those who live inside the United States, Atlanta Market, picture a shopping mall, and this is where Sherri Hill goes to sell her dresses, Giovanni, MacDougall, basically all the designers that pageant girls all around the world purchase. They're all under one roof inside of Atlanta, Georgia. And it's around August. Actually, it's August 5th this year is when it starts. And so you go in and out of all the showrooms. And this is where a lot of models, they get their start. And so designers, because they always have model gaps that they need filled. And so they reach out to us and say, do you know of anybody willing to model? So I really encourage you, because what we do is we look at our own database. And these designers are starting to look at our own database too. So they look at our contestant galleries and all that. So make sure that you fill out your height and like hair color, eye color, and upload a lot of beautiful pictures of yourself so that they can see that. And then they can contact you and message you right through the website. And height is important for this reason. So it's, I think it's 5'8" is the height. It's been a few years. So 5'8", and then maybe a size 6. And that's just the sample size of the dresses. So it's not that they're trying to ostracize anyone, but like when these designers get their samples or dress samples come in from the manufacturers, like over in China or the various countries, they all basically come to fit a girl who's 5 feet, like 8 inches tall, and then who's like a size 6. And again, don't quote me on those numbers. It's been a few years since I've actually had to work with models and hire them. So those dresses come in, the designers just want to put it on models, right? Without having to tailor everything. So it's just more an efficiency thing and not necessarily anything else. So,
right.
But yeah, so that's why it's important to put your height on there. Every designer, has their own stick, but that, again, just a blanket statement.
Sure. Cool. And like, I'll say too, Stephen, you can build in this as well. Like, you can get scouted by like luck, like at a pageant, like someone sees you, or through social media. But like, you're competing with a huge sampling of people, right? Mm-hmm. And like, your personality like might be the thing that helps propel you to sign a deal, but it doesn't hurt to have an agency in place either. So there's a lot of different steps and ways to get into modeling, either as a showroom model, like that's a great first step too. Yeah. Gain the trust of them, and then maybe get promoted to runway model. Yeah,
and we actually have articles on this too, like how to get into modeling. Like if you just look in our article features, like what to look out for scams. Like if people are like, oh, you need to have a portfolio, pay me $500 and I'll shoot all your photos for it. It doesn't work like that. Like, you don't need to buy that portfolio thing up front. The reason why they're charging you that portfolio is because that's how they make their money, is off photos. Mm-hmm. They don't make money off booking you because they don't book you. They're not that good at booking you. The real modeling agencies that can book you make their money on the back end after they have booked you. So, just kind of keep that in mind. But we've got 4 articles on there, and they're really in depth, and they cover a lot of those things.
Good. And I think this works in life too. Like sponsorship, professional connections, whenever you can get FaceTime or make connections with the decision maker, do it. Meet somebody who can positively impact your life. Like, don't be afraid to introduce yourself and start building a relationship, because as soon as you can get in the door, that's the biggest first step.
Yeah. And I feel like this is like a direct explanation of why people say pageants are won and lost in interview too. I mean, no one ever says pageants are won in evening gown. I mean, your looks can get you noticed, but it's your interpersonal connection that can help you like nail a job with a premier designer like a Sherri Hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, in 2010, the prize package for Miss USA included an evening gown wardrobe sponsored by Sherri Hill, and she has sponsored that pageant ever since. And this year, every contestant at Miss Teen USA and Miss USA 2019 visited the Sherri Hill headquarters to pick out the evening gown they would wear in the national competition. They pulled like features from various designs and were able to customize their dream gown.
And in addition to evening gowns, the opening number outfits for all 3 pageants, Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, and Miss Universe, are also sponsored by Sherri Hill. And it's perfect because that's how she can promote her like off the rack collections. Like, a lot of contestants will wear couture or custom, which like the average person isn't going to buy for prom. But at least for the opening number, she can show like some homecoming designs, some takedown versions, and really push those collections. And she sponsors a lot of other very strong systems around the world with opening number garments too.
Yeah, and before I jump to the next section, this is also proof that pageantry is relevant and like can help push brands. You have Sherri Hill, who got her start in pageantry and actually prom, and then was made famous in pageantry, and now is working with massive celebrities, which we'll get into later, and yet she still corners the market in pageantry. I'm dealing with Miss USA, Miss America, etc. She really focuses on that. And if pageantry wasn't a big influencer, she could move on from there if she wanted to. But she's getting results there, and she's going to continue doing it.
Right. And I think you and I were talking fairly recently, Stephen, about prom retailers. They have to commit to a certain number of garments for each designer in their store. And I think Sherri just increased her minimum for a store to be an official Sherri Hill retailer. And she's probably the only person in the industry that can get away with that, because the demand is there for her product.
Yeah, because people, manufacturers or like Sherri Hill, they want to get more and more retail space within a store. So they'll increase the minimums that you have to buy from, these are arbitrary numbers, but from like 50 units to 100 units, because your store space is only so big, right? So if you have 100 Sherri Hill gallons in there, it kind of pushes out the other designers. So that's a really smart marketing strategy from her. And also, it's not just based on her too. The individuals that manufacture her dresses in China, they too are increasing their minimums that they're requiring designers in the United States and other parts of the country or other parts of the world that they have to buy. So, and this is kind of a coaching moment here too, just so you understand the industry. Jesse pointed on it a few moments ago, but if you're a contestant, you're not able to go straight to Sherri Hill and just say, I want a dress or I want a custom design. It doesn't work like that. What you have to do is you have to go through an authorized Sherri Hill retailer, which you can find by going to sherrihill.com and then just typing in your address, whatever. And you can find all of her authorized retailers there. You then contact the store nearest you and say, I want a custom Sherri Hill, etc. And then that store will work with Sherri to get your custom, because manufacturers like Sherri Hill, etc., they don't sell straight to consumers. You'll have one-off designers that don't sell their product inside of retail stores. They will sell it to you directly, but big manufacturers like Sherri that have thousands of stores throughout the world, they don't sell directly to you as a person. So
remember, this is not a sponsored podcast.
Yeah, it's not. It's just how the industry works, and I found it fascinating because I didn't know until I worked until I worked with the industry.
Yep.
Okay, so
let's talk about Miss America.
Yeah, let's talk about Miss America. So in 2015, Sherri, she was announced as the official evening gown sponsor for the 2016 Miss America pageant. Then the then executive chairman and CEO of the Miss America organization, Sam Haskell, he was quoted as saying that Sherri Hill dresses are synonymous with class and style. I wonder what he said privately in email when she was, I'm kidding. No. Snap. All right. On August 9th.
Get the lawyer ready.
On August 9th, 2018, the new Miss America 2.0 announced a 3-year partnership deal with Sherri Hill to embrace the first class of Miss America 2.0 and welcome those young women who would be a part of Miss America up through the organization's 100th anniversary.
So I have a pretty long story about how Sherri works individually with the pageant she sponsors. And there was a deal that Sherri was going to sponsor Cara Mund for the Show Us Your Shoes parade in Atlantic City for her farewell. I mean, she sponsored her for everything, but that was included in the deal. And it was written in the original press release when they signed on. But I mean, we all know like Cara had like a crazy last few months as Miss America, and she had other plans. Like she said, I wanted to be Wonder Woman in the parade. Like she wanted to be dressed as Wonder Woman. And in the summer, MAO approved like the idea of letting her work with a costumer to design something like really special. And after she spoke out, of course, she was informed that Sherri Hill, a popular pageant dress designer who we all know, agreed to sponsor Miss America, was demanding she wear one of her creations instead of this Wonder Woman costume. And again, this was after Cara wrote the article. So yeah, so there's that. So anyway, so like she's like, Cara called Sherri directly and was like, hey, like I want to do this. And Sherri was like, I don't remember making that demand. And actually Sherri loved the idea of Cara wearing Wonder Woman. So she was like, Cara was like, I'm gonna get this in writing from Sherri that she's cool with it. So she said, so Sherri wrote back, she read, go rock it. Like, that's all she said. Go do it. So minutes before the parade was going to start with the floats, like, are lined up and, like, Cara's dressed. She's on the float. Like, the tour manager, like, pulled her aside. Like, you have to change. There's a contract with Sherri, and she wants you in a dress. And Cara was like, oh, don't worry. I have verbal and written confirmation from Sherri saying I can wear this. And later they were like, I was just doing my job. And Cara was like, so am I. So like, snap, go girl.
Oh yeah. And then she just like famously, she was like, so am I. And then she just kind of picked up her superhero shield and like boarded on the float, you know?
Yeah.
But so like number one, really go Cara, right? Because if you hear that someone like a Sherri Hill, a world-renowned designer, is like demanding, and then you just have the audacity to pick up the phone and call her, that takes guts, you know,
For sure.
Especially because like if you're set on wanting to do this and you know that there might be a potential friction, like that does, it takes a lot of courage. So, I mean, that shows you the kind of tenacity that Cara has. And number two, like, good for like Sherri Hill and being flexible and recognizing the goal of the woman that she works with. Because Sherri could have said, no, like, I am the sponsor of this. There's going to be a lot of photos that comes out of this, and I want to get my money's worth. Right? Like, she could have absolutely do that. But like, she, did what she felt like was right at the time. And I thought that was a really classy move on her part and definitely in line with her mission.
Definitely. So
like, and this is, I feel like, transitions into yet another coaching moment where, like, designers, they work for you. Like, if there was no consumer and if there would be like no designers. So don't be shy about asking for what you want.
Yes, I feel like we have to say this louder for the people in the back. Because I think, I've said it before, like, I think contestants get so overwhelmed with what the experts think and want and easily cave because they believe they know best. And like, newsflash, everyone has a motive. And like, as much as they do want you to succeed, there's still probably another reason they're pushing you in the direction they're pushing you in. And that's just the reality. Yeah,
completely. And I heard the story. Sherri didn't tell me the story firsthand, but I heard it from another manufacturer who was speaking with Sherri, and I thought it was so brilliant. Most of the manufacturers, as we said earlier, they market to retailers, right? Because retailers buy their product, and then the retailers sell it to consumer, which is contestants or prom girls. Sherri says, no, I don't market to the retailers. I market to the contestants, like to the girls actually buying the dress. She's like, that's my customer. Retailers pay me money, but my true customer is the girls buying the dress, which I thought is it seems like such a small thing, small tweak. But when you look at her brand and what she did for Cara, is that she really does cater to that. And I saw her in action before, like a few years prior to starting Pageant Planet. She was like designing a dress for the girl I was dating, right? And I was just there. I didn't know who Sherri Hill was or anything like that. So we're in this like pageant store in like Mobile, Alabama, or maybe not even Mobile, like, it was in Alabama. And anyway, so I saw the firsthand attention that she was giving and like answering questions and like her ability to just sketch on the spot and like, oh, okay, you want that? Okay, what else do you want? So, I mean, the girl was definitely leading. The girl I was with was definitely leading the conversation, and she was like, oh, I'm here to serve. And I think that that's like, as it should be, right?
Yes. And like we've said it a million times, when you're going in to meet with someone, whether it's Sherri Hill or whether it's someone that's just getting started or whether you're just going in to get an off-the-rack dress, have a brief of your brand words with your tribe. Have a mouthy friend who will step up if they don't feel like you're being served, like you just said. If there's a motive, like it's really about like you're paying these people for something that you have to wear and love. So make sure that you are your own best advocate.
Yeah, and today her business has a network of over 1,000 stores selling the brand in over 52 countries. And Sherri Hill headquarters can be found in a sleek space in downtown Austin, Texas. The Hills, collectively the family group, also maintain a dress design studio and showroom in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is where like the Atlanta market takes place, and inside of New York City. And her designs like reach far beyond the pageant stage now, and she also has lines for prom, homecoming, special occasions, as well as some jewelry options.
And when asked to define the style of her line, she said, "My line is all special occasions, from prom to wedding to red carpet events. We do gowns for the special events in a woman's life. Our line is designed to celebrate the moment." So much like the model she was looking for, that's the style she's going with. Yeah,
and many celebrities are fans of Sherri, like including like Selena Gomez, Carrie Underwood, Taylor Swift, Miranda Lambert, Zendaya, Ariana Grande, Gabby Douglas, Fifth Harmony, Bella Thorne, Tamar Braxton.
Oh my gosh.
Ryan Newman, and, the list goes on. And that's not even, we haven't even touched on all the, pageant girls that's worn her stuff. But,
right.
So they have worn Hill's designs for various red carpet, charity, and social events. And like, she really is, and I know this, like, she's just humble and strong leader. So I was, this was actually at the market in Chicago. I jumped in the elevator, and then like the doors were closing and she walked in. So it was just like her and I was like, I know you. And then she was like, I feel like I know you too. I was like, Sherri? She's like, Steven? I was like, yeah. And so anyways, I was just like, well, I just really want to say like, congratulations on your success. Like we met, 12 years ago, whatever. And I don't expect you to remember, but like, I just have seen you climb and I think it's so amazing. And then she in turn, like was very complimentary of like Pageant Planet and like what we've created and all that. But I'm like I don't want to say most, but certain people that have that level of success, when you compliment them, they're just like, okay, thank you. Waiting for the next compliment, but they don't necessarily turn it back and give it to you and have kind of that baseline knowledge of even like who you are, what you do. So she really does have a lot of compassion for the industry, and she's clearly still very much involved, even though that, these world-renowned people are wearing all of her stuff. So I just think the world of her.
Yeah. And she's a champion in other ways too. And I want to get into this topic, but before we dive in, she took on some counterfeiters, and I want to discuss what the word counterfeit means, because we see designers kind of take inspiration from other designers and collections all the time. Like I won't go into details on that, but we've all seen borrowed designs. But fashion in general is not able to be copyrighted for the most part because it's challenging to prove like where the concept really originated from. So seeing designs repeat like is not counterfeit. So that's not what we're talking about.
Oh, I actually have a little fun thing that I learned about this.
Tell me.
So do you know why, let's just say like Michael Kors, why they have those purses with MK, like all over it?
Yep.
So because of that, they're able to like trademark that or whatever. If the logo is repeated all over, they're able to trademark that. But if it doesn't have the logo like smeared all over like wallpaper, then they're not able to.
Well, what about Louis Vuitton? Louis Vuitton did that first.
Right. And so that's one of the strategies behind doing it, is because like the logo or the pattern or whatever is wrapped around. People still create knockoffs of it, but it enables them to go after them if they can find them.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, fun fact. Okay. So what we're talking about with counterfeit is when a company uses like images or a brand name to sell an off-brand product. And I'm sure you've seen those horrible side-by-side images of like what people thought they were getting. I always put them in my Facebook, like prom disaster dresses. So
yeah.
Like, granted, if you're searching for a discounted version of $1,000 item and you pay $100, like, come on, like, let's be smart, people. But if you purchase from a site using all your favorite designer photos, the site title includes the designer's name, well, like, I can see how that hoodwinking happens, because you're like, we're not always on guard. And if the name is like sherryhilldresses.com,
right,
you might buy into that.
Right, absolutely. And as a notable designer, like, she has certainly dealt with her fair share of counterfeiters over the years. And she went through a stretch of lawsuits, and I'll detail a few. In 2010, it was announced that Sherri Hill Inc. had filed lawsuits against Let's Fashion Inc., which is a Los Angeles-based manufacturer and wholesaler for knocking off distinctive elements of 9 of Sherri Hill's well-known dresses. And Let's Fashion was accused of distributing the infringing dresses to boutiques and retailers for sale to customers. And that case was later settled. And
in 2012, she made public her success in another lawsuit against online counterfeiters. She was awarded $5 million.
Wow.
In a judgment and permanent injunction against 2 defendants in the online counterfeiting, cyber squatting, and copyright infringement case. And this is what I was just talking about. Like, the complaint said that they were using website domain names like sherryhillpromdresses.com, by sherryhillpromdresses.com, designerpromdresses.com.
Yeah.
So they were doing what we just talked about, where they were being totally misleading across the board, and very likely using her marketing photos to try to sell garments people thought they were getting the real thing.
Oh, absolutely. And what I've discovered with some of these like China-based companies is they do that. They get away with it for a few years. They make a bunch of money, and then they use that money to open up a legitimate fashion company. Right. And then they start like competing against others, which is kind of, it's just shady way of doing business. But after winning the legal battle in 2012, the company has hired staff devoted to reporting violations of copyright laws via the internet. So in March 2013, Sherri Hill Inc. was featured on the Today Show and discussed their work with fighting knockoff designer goods and their experience with individuals that have received counterfeit Sherri Hill dresses from fraudulent online retailers. Her son, Dusty Hill, appeared once again on the Today Show to discuss the topic, and Sherri's been featured on Inside Edition and discussed continuing challenges faced with like these knockoff designer goods. And it happens with like everything, not just dresses, but I mean, we're just talking about dresses. It happens in so many goods. I mean, it's such a massive industry, that knockoff industry.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but Sherri Hill is becoming one of the most iconic and popular designers in modern time for the every woman, not just the woman that's going to be able to spend thousands of dollars on a dress. She's not about to compromise her brand. And like, I get that and I respect it. And from couture to cocktail, Sherri Hill's only goal is to make the wearer look and feel like a queen. And her designs like are forever sealed in some of the most iconic moments in pageant history.
Yeah, and she's taken like a really small family business in Oklahoma and built an empire that pageant contestants can rely on for beautiful quality gowns and for all their pageant needs. And again, it's not sponsored. It's just like, we just think a lot of her. And she once said that, you know,
I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about her.
Yeah.
Literally not one.
Yeah. And well, I have, but it's been her competition, and that's because they'd be jelly. So, I mean, she once said that for anyone aspiring to be a fashion designer, like this was her advice to you. So if you want to go into fashion, you know, here's her pearls of wisdom. She said, experience. Seize every opportunity you can to be around any part of the industry. Retail experience is very helpful. And if you can assist customers in selection and fitting, you get a good sense of what works and what doesn't work on the actual body. No school can teach you this. And what's interesting, like fun fact, is that Sherri Hill, she still to this day visits her stores. And she goes in and she does this very same thing. She looks how like girls fit in her dresses and in other designers, and she sees what's on there, and like on the racks of these showrooms, and that's a very common practice. So yeah, she lives her message. So
I would just say in summary, again, this was not a sponsored podcast, but I would say work with the natural experiences and opportunities you're blessed with. Like Sherri, I mean, Sherri grew up in a retail household, a retail business with her household, and then she was able to use those experiences to really catapult her into eventually finding her calling, and it equipped her with success. So see what those natural things are in your life that can help you on your path. Sherri has done so well because of a foundation that was laid when she was 8 years old in the family business, and you may not want to do the same thing at 18 or 28 that you wanted at 8, but if you internalize your life experience to help guide you to paths you are already qualified, just to help get you started, there's probably something that you've done or experienced that you can use as a springboard at whatever industry you're looking to get into.
Love that. And thanks for listening. And if you've received any benefit from this show or for ones previous, please consider giving us a 5-star review. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, like leave a comment and let us know, and give us a thumbs up. And it may seem like a small action, but this kind of feedback really helps us tailor more to your needs of like what you're looking for, and it does. It helps us keep the show going. So until next time.
Want to become a part of pageant history? Create a free contestant or business profile on pageantplanet.com to unlock hidden features and connect with other experts throughout the world.